I think It Takes Two might just be the best cooperative game of all time. And that's coming from someone who loves the genre, whether that be the Portal series, the Borderlands series, Diablo, or so many different types of games I've enjoyed with friends. Nothing has been as impactful and fun that I can remember, especially in recent memory, as Hazelight's It Takes Two. It Takes Two starts off pretty innocently. You're a family going through a divorce, a mom and a dad, and their daughter who is having trouble dealing with her feelings going through it all. And through a little bit of magic, both the parents turn into the daughter's dolls, and through a 7-chapter series, go on amazing adventures with a large variety of gameplay. And while I don't think the story is necessarily the centerpiece of It Takes Two, I think it is a crowning achievement on its own. I've seen so many other people talk about how the narrative is cringe or just weird, and I see where they're coming from. There's certain characters in the game that are definitely cringy at moments and can be a little weird. I'm looking at the love book specifically. But overall, it tells a very interesting, concise, heartfelt, and funny story that keeps you on your toes and really enhances the overall experience. But the reason It Takes Two is so great isn't because it tells the best story we've ever seen in gaming. I'd argue that A Way Out, their previous game, actually has a better story, but painfully boring gameplay, something that's alleviated here. What makes It Takes Two so amazing is its narrative design along with its gameplay design and formulas. The game is seemingly hyper-focused on constantly keeping the player engaged and interested. No two maps have the same mechanics, and constantly, as you're changing chapters, you're finding new power-ups and new abilities that not only enhance how the game is played, but change fundamentally, in many ways, the type of game you're playing. It Takes Two isn't just a simple platformer like you might have seen in some gameplay demos. There's so many different strands of ingenuity and fun gameplay elements that should be discovered, and I won't be spoiling here because that's one of the funnest parts of the game. Playing with my friend, my roommate, my girlfriend, and my sister, some of the funnest moments were just discovering new types of gameplay elements and environments as we kept progressing through the story. And most impressively, the story and the gameplay elements are so masterfully intertwined. When I go into a new map, not only do I have new mechanics, but it narratively makes sense. For example, at one point in the story, May and Cody, the two protagonists, have to find their attraction again. They're searching for something that they lost. And in this chapter, a lot of the chapter includes some puzzles that you have to solve with magnets, implying finding attraction through magnetism. Every single story beat progresses the gameplay, and all of the gameplay elements progress the story masterfully. And it obviously shows that the studio put so much thought into not only what the gameplay would be and what the story would be, but how they would intertwine and play off one another. That way everything made sense, even in a world where dolls can walk and talk. And that cohesion carries through to almost every aspect of the game. You quite literally are never doing the same type of gameplay. They're constantly throwing new types of puzzles, new types of enemies at you. And without spoiling anything, the type and genre of game you're playing itself is constantly changing. There were so many moments when I was playing this game, whether it was with my girlfriend or my roommate or my sister, where our jaws were just on the floor, not only because of how good the game looks, but just because of what was happening on the screen. And this immaculate look to the game carries through with the camera work as well. Because the game is entirely a duo experience, you have to play it with another friend. There's all these different camera angles, whether that be the standard you've always seen, vertical camera angles or horizontal camera angles, but there's also times where the camera opens and pans up to one screen where you play together, or one person's screen is on and the other's is not. And it's this fundamental change to the gameplay that makes it so interesting. I've played a lot of co-op games, but they seem to all use the same standard format where one player's on the left side and one player's on the right. And while It Takes Two is mostly that, there's a lot of mix up to the formula on the camera as well. And as I've already stated, this is just carried over into the gameplay too. Every single aspect of this game keeps you on your toes, and that's what makes it so fun. You're constantly wondering what the next environment is going to look like, what the next narrative beat is going to be, and what the new gameplay mechanic Hazelight is going to introduce to you in the next chapter is going to be. Every single moment in this game is meticulously paced out as well. There's never any times where you start to wonder, well, this mechanic's getting a little old. The second that starts to creep into your mind, the mechanic is ditched. There were quite literally moments playing this game where I got a new mechanic and a new way to play, and it lasted for 5 or 10 minutes before it was gone, and I enjoyed every second of it, and it was perfectly timed before I started to get bored. It almost seemed like Hazelight's main goal was this game to just constantly keep the player engaged. Always new mechanics are coming up, always new environments are coming up, new story beats are going, and the biggest thing is that it keeps both players engaged the entire time. There was no downtime or stupid side quests we had to do or collectibles we had to gather just to pad the game time and waste our time. Every moment was fun. And the only side mechanic the game does have, the little mini games that you can find scattered throughout some of the levels, are all fun time wasters that I would usually play around once or twice with whoever I was with, and then we would quickly move on to the rest of the story. The game isn't interested on wasting your time. It's interested on making the most of it. Every single moment is important in It Takes Two, and that makes every single moment fun. And I wish more games, and especially co-op games, would come out like this, that aren't so focused on pointless, meaningless objectives that just bog down the experience. This is through and through a perfectly crafted co-op experience that is fun the entire time in every aspect. And it's just crazy for me to think about how well thought out this game is. Even in terms of things like difficulty, the game is just hard enough that all of the puzzles feel rewarding to solve, but not so hard that you end up banging your head against the floor wondering how the hell to solve a puzzle. And this also enhances other aspects of the game. If the puzzles were too hard, then the narrative would start to slow down and we would start to fall out of love with it. And if they were too easy, then playing the game would just be boring and it would be pointless. Hazelight obviously has spent an unreal amount of time playing through each level and figuring out what that perfect combo is. Whether I was playing with my girlfriend, who isn't a gamer, my sister who occasionally games, or my roommate who is another avid gamer as well, each of us had a great time with all of the puzzles. They were just hard enough that it was satisfying, but they were never too hard as to make us give up. And I know I've been a little vague as to what those narrative beats and gameplay mechanics are that make the game so fluid, but that's on purpose. Because one of the greatest aspects of this game is discovering that for yourself. I don't want to sit here and spoil all the interesting, intricate game mechanics that are going to pop up as you play the game. I don't want to sit here and tell you what's going to happen in the story or how that's going to intertwine into the gameplay and what's going to happen. Because once again, discovering that for yourself is what makes this game so great. But what I can assuredly tell you is that this game is more than the sum of its parts. The gameplay is phenomenal. It's varied, it's interesting, and it's fun. The graphics are immaculate. It is quite literally one of the best looking, if not the best looking games I've ever seen. And I don't know how they pull off this sort of great performance, even on lower end hardware, running 2 screens simultaneously. The narrative is fun, charming, heartwarming, and it really hits a lot of emotional beats at many moments that just brighten up the room. And if I had one complaint about the game, the only thing would be that at some points there is a lot of narrative. I know that the creator of Hazelight did come from a movie background, so obviously he's tapping into that here. But I wish there was more times in the game where the characters, you would be given control of them as they go through the narrative, instead of being forced to watch so many cutscenes. But there aren't too many, and it isn't too intrusive, and they are interesting, especially on a first playthrough, so it isn't too big of a ding for me here. But especially on repeat playthroughs, I think skipping and having the option to was a big plus to include. So at the end of the day, if I had to say anything about this game, it's that it's the perfect co-op game. You can play this with your kids, your wife, your husband, your girlfriend, your friend, your sister, your family, anyone. They can be an avid gamer all the way to someone that's new to games, and you're going to have a great and awesome experience. Playing It Takes Two is like playing a montage of your favorite Mario levels along with your favorite moments from other games, all while being encased in a Pixar film. It truly is a magical game, and it's so unique. While a lot of its mechanics and the things that have happened in other games, something to this level and with this sort of care I've never seen in my entire life. I know I've made a lot of videos about how video games aren't getting worse, and there's actually a lot of great things out there, and it's just your nostalgia and wish to be a kid again that's making you think games used to be better. And I think this is a perfect example of that. Recently, I did go back and play Portal 2 and a lot of other co-op games that I loved growing up. And looking back at it, It Takes Two just takes everything that I loved about the co-op genre and perfects it. I quite literally don't know what someone could do better than this game besides just doing more of what this game is doing. The setting is so fun and interesting. The narrative is immaculate. The gameplay is bar none. Nothing even is close to it in terms of the variety and engagement. It's also tight controls that make it all work. And overall, this game for me is the new crowning jewel for what a co-op game should be. You know, when I was growing up, co-op was such a big part of gaming. My friends would come over and play Halo on LAN all the time. We would play Call of Duty together, Diablo, Borderlands, and so many different games. And it was a huge part of what made games so great. Playing with your friends and making an experience with another human being in a game that was awesome itself. And it feels like in a lot of ways, gaming has stepped away from this. Everything is online nowadays. Games are more focused on single player and large multiplayer experiences. And that couch co-op experience I had as a kid is in large part gone. But It Takes Two has brought it back, and it's brought it back better than it has ever been before. This is a type of game that really no other studios are making, and funnily enough, even without the competition, Hazelight is blowing everyone away. Because this is truly the perfect co-op experience. No matter what type of gamer you are, no matter whether you're young, old, or in between, this game can speak to anyone who has any sort of interest in gaming whatsoever. It has something for quite literally everyone. And more importantly, it has a story to tell and gameplay elements to show that can help you bond with the person you're gaming with after all. Because at the end of the day, this game is about that bond between two different characters. And the funniest thing I noticed is that throughout all my playthroughs, whether that was with my girlfriend, my sister, or my roommate, we had something to learn and we had a journey to go through. And it feels like the relationship has gotten even stronger by the end of it. And if anything, that is this game's greatest accomplishment. Through all the funny, endearing, exciting, violent, and crazy moments, a story was told and a memory was made. And in the history of games, this is one of my finest memories I've made yet. And the fact I got to do it with so many friends at such a high level is something I'm so thankful for. So thank you, Hazelight, and thank you for everyone that is working on the game. I know Joseph did say he'd be giving $1,000 to anyone who said they didn't like the game, and I can see why now. Because I don't think there's many people on this earth who can't find some enjoyment out of it. This has to be one of the best gaming experiences I've ever had in my life, and definitely the best co-op experience I've had in a long, long time. Thank you for watching, guys. And as always, if you want to help support me, make sure to subscribe and leave some comments down below. I love to talk about topics like this. Or come check me out at my Twitch channel, as I also love talking with you guys live and playing different games for fun. And I really do appreciate all the support. This is kind of a new format I'm trying out for the YouTube channel, where I kind of just spit off the cuff and do reviews based on how I feel and what I thought after finishing a game. And I'd love to know your guys' thoughts if you want to see more like this in the future. And I'm excited because we have another Prey video coming up too, and that should be fun. And I hope you guys all have a great day.